So good morning. This is lecture number 3 of mechatronics we are having. For the last two lectures, we have discussed about the basics of mechatronic systems, what are the elements of mechatronic systems, and what are the broad application areas of mechatronic systems. Today we shall move further and we'll try to think from the point of view of design of any mechatronic system. As we discussed in the earlier class, there were few basic elements we had identified. There were sensors, transducers, there were signal conditioning devices, there were actuating devices, there were feedback devices, and there were display devices or display elements. So as I said, while designing any mechatronic system, let us say for an example, we are going to develop one mobile robot which is able to detect, let us say, unwanted thing, that is maybe bomb detector or explosive detector device, robo we want to develop as a mechatronic device. What we need to do, if you think for a while, what you'll come to know is that I'll be defining my requirements for this bomb detecting robot. Like, it should be able to detect those unwanted substances. In this case, those are the explosives. So I should have appropriate sensor which is able to sense such unwanted explosive devices. And once it is detected, once it is sensed, that signal will be sent to a signal conditioning device. And it will be maybe mapped, it may be compared with whatever database we have with the controller, just to check whether it is an explosive or it is any mundane, commonplace object. So the sensor will be sensing that object, and then the controller will compare with whatever predefined image of my explosive device or the unwanted explosive device that we have. And then appropriately, the controller will process that signal and it will give signal to the actuator whether to pick that unwanted substance if it is identified as an explosive. Maybe it can be programmed with the appropriate diffusing mechanism as such. This is just a rough example I'm discussing. And then the actuating device will excavate, it will remove that substance and maybe it will take it away from the crowded place and it will be diffused thereafter. Now with this example, as you can see, whatever in the last class we identified, the elements as elements of mechatronic systems, you'll find that there'll be sensing and transducing elements, there'll be actuating elements, there'll be signal processing elements, there'll be control elements. Maybe if I have a control computer in my cabin, that those images would be sent to me and I'll be visually also comparing, and appropriate control action will be generated and the diffusion process might take place. So this way, while designing any mechatronic device, depending on the type of application we are trying to develop, we should be able to define the requirements for designing such a system. Now, in this plan of design of mechatronic systems, first of all, we have to look for appropriate sensing and transducing elements. So this is going to be our topic of discussion today. We'll be understanding what is meant by a sensor and what is meant by a transducer, as I have given an outline of today's lecture. Briefly, I will be discussing about the basic principle of sensors and transducers. Then we'll define or we will identify the sensor transducer specifications, or these specifications are also called as performance characteristics of these sensing and transducing elements. Now these performance characteristics are very important from the point of view of selection of appropriate sensor transducer for our mechatronic application. As we took the example of a bomb detector robot, similar could be the examples of maybe we might require a temperature sensing transducer elements. We might require a pressure sensing transducer element. So what are my functional requirements? Based on that, I'll be selecting those sensors and transducers, and there these performance characteristics would be very useful. So those we'll be discussing briefly, and then we should start with study of various sensors and transducers. I have identified a few: position and proximity sensor transducers, velocity and motion transducers, force transducers, fluid pressure, flow and level transducers, and temperature transducers. We are going as per syllabus, and there are a few more types of transducers as well, but we'll be restricting our studies to the study of these transducers. And finally, we'll be discussing the selection criteria, how to select the sensor transducers for particular applications. So to start with, we have the basic principle of sensor and transducer. As the name indicates, the sensor or transducer, most of the times these two terms are used interchangeably, sensors or transducers, but these two have specific meaning. But the purpose is as defined in the block diagram. Whatever measurement we have, measuring parameter we have, like we have displacement, temperature, pressure, any measurement parameter, these sensor transducer elements will convert those parameters, those physical parameters, into some useful parameter, because it is to be conditioned later on, it is to be used for display, it is to be used for controlling actions. So for that, that sensed and transduced signal is needed to be modified. So for modification and control, voltage, current, capacitance, inductance, resistance, these are the useful parameters. So basically, the transducers convert the physical parameter into appropriate, either electrical, most of the times electrical, in some cases it is mechanical signal also. They convert parameter in the physical form into some other convenient form. This process is also called as transduction process. A brief discussion about difference between the sensor and a transducer. As you can see on the screen, sensor is a device that when exposed to a physical phenomena like temperature, displacement, force, etc., it produces a proportional output signal. It can be either electrical, it can be either mechanical, it could be magnetic, etc. So sensor senses the signal and then it gives it to the transducer. Whereas the transducer is a device that converts one form of signal into some other convenient form of the signal. So one form of energy to some other form of energy. Basically, this is just to suit our functional requirements. In some cases, modifications might not be necessary. In some cases, in most of the cases, modifications are necessary. So transducers are mostly used for converting signal in one form into signal in other form. For general purposes, In most of the books, you'll find these two terms, sensors and transducers, are used interchangeably. In some books, you'll find that the transducers are also called as detector transducers or sensor transducers, which will be using this term interchangeably, sensors and transducers. Well, it's not the case that we'll be studying sensors alone separately and transducers separately. No, we'll be studying sensor transducer elements, or we can also call them as detector transducer elements. So the transducers convert the physical parameter, the physical signal, into some other appropriate signal which can be easily modified. Now, as I said earlier, while selecting the transducers for different applications, as I said, we'll be discussing position sensor transducers, velocity acceleration transducers, we'll be studying pressure transducers, we'll be studying temperature transducers, we'll be studying some flow transducers. Uh, as I said, before selecting a transducer, particular type of transducer for a particular type of application, we need to study certain performance characteristics. Now, these characteristics can be categorized into two groups. Uh, One group is called as static performance characteristic, and the second group is called as dynamic performance characteristics. Now, static performance characteristics corresponding to non-time varying parameters, whereas the dynamic characteristics correspond to time varying characteristics. And in most of the dynamic situations, in a sense, whether the flow is continuously changing, the vehicle is continuously moving. So there are changes in the parameters over a period of time. In that case, whatever transducer will be using, what kind of dynamic characteristic it should have becomes relevant. So both static and dynamic performance characteristics are important from the selection of transducers for particular applications. We'll go one by one, each of the performance characteristics. As you can see on the screen, we have the first characteristic given as range. The range of a sensor or transducer indicates the limits between which the input vary. For a particular applications, in what time range or in what temperature range we'll be using this transducer. He has given one example. A thermocouple for the measurement of temperature might have a range of 25 degrees Celsius to 25 degrees Celsius. So in most of the instrument specifications or the transducer specification, this parameter is mentioned. What is the range of this equipment, range of this transducer? In this case, the range of temperature transducer is given as 25 degrees to 25 degrees Celsius. Now, based on my requirement, whether I'll be designing a furnace transducer. So my range of uh, temperature measurement would be maybe 500 degrees Celsius to 1500 degrees Celsius. Then this range specification will help me in selecting appropriate transducer for which satisfies my requirements. For a furnace transducer, I have a requirement of a temperature sensing device which should be able to measure 500 degrees Celsius to 1500 degrees Celsius. Then I would go through the specific range specifications of different types of transducers, maybe thermocouples, J-type thermocouple, K-type thermocouple, or T-type thermocouple. Or I would look for thermistors, whether they fulfill my requirement. So based on, or I need to go in for some optical pyrometer. So based on my design requirements, from the point of view of application of a mechatronic device, this range specification would be useful. So the end limits, the range gives me the lowest limit and the uppermost limit. The second specification is span. Now, in the first characteristic we saw range, as I said, it is the upper limit and the lower limit. Span defines the difference between the upper limit and lower limit. So the span is the difference between the maximum value and the minimum value of the input. Thus, for the above mentioned thermocouple, we have a span of 200 degrees Celsius. So this is also a useful parameter. Span is also a useful parameter which defines the usefulness of a given transducer for my application. The third specification characteristic or performance characteristic is error. A given transducer or a given selected transducer, how erroneous it is or how accurate it is. So it all depends on, once again, my design requirements. If I am working for a precision robotic arm, and I want the position to be sensed, maybe by an encoder, which is a transducer. Now, what is the resolution and what is the accuracy I want? What is the positional inaccuracy my mechatronic device can sustain, or what accuracy fulfills my requirement? So there, this error parameter appears to be a very useful parameter. So error is the difference between the result of the measurement and the true value of the quantity being measured. The sensor might give a displacement reading of 29.8 millimeter, and the actual displacement had been 30 millimeter. So the error is minus 0.2 millimeter. So this is how error can be defined in absolute terms, millimeter terms, or error can also be specified in terms of percentage of full range as well. So error is also important performance characteristic. There comes the related next parameter, that is accuracy of my given transducer. The accuracy defines the closeness of the true value of the measurand. Measurand is nothing but the quantity to be measured. It is often expressed as a percentage of the full range output or full scale deflection. So the accuracy defines the closeness to the true value. If a pressure sensor or transducer is giving a pressure measurement, let us say between 0.7 kilopascal to 70 kilopascal, this is just as an example, and if it is specified with the pressure transducers that this pressure transducer has an accuracy of about plus or minus 1% of full scale, then the reading given can be expected to be within plus or minus 0.7 megapascal. So the full scale is 70 megapascal. 1% of 70 megapascal is 7 megapascal, and well, it is a full scale. So sorry, 70 is the highest value, 70 megapascal. 10% would be 7 megapascal, and 0.7 megapascal would be corresponding to 1%. So 0.7 megapascal plus or minus would be the accuracy. In fact, if you see closely, this is nothing but the amount of inaccuracy. This plus or minus 0.7 megapascal corresponds to the inaccuracy of a given measuring device or a given transducer device. What is the meaning of this? Suppose the instrument is showing, let us say, 10 megapascal. So what is the exact value I should consider? So the actual value corresponding to plus or minus 1% of accuracy would be ranging from, if the red value is 10 megapascal, it would be 10 plus or minus 0.7 megapascal. So it would be 9.3 megapascal, right, to 10.7 megapascal. This would be the range of values my measuring instruments would be giving. So this is where, this is how you can analyze a given instrument accuracy or inaccuracy. I repeat, accuracy corresponds to closeness to the true value. Once again, how should I select a transducer for a particular application? It all depends on my functional requirement. If I am looking for gross measurements of the parameters, I did not bother much about close accuracy instruments. If I am working on a precision mechatronic device, then I should identify my close accuracy requirements. It all depends on what kind of application we are developing. So the next parameter that we have is repeatability. Now, repeatability further leads to definition of precision. Precision is dependent on repeatability of the instrument. To understand repeatability, let us say, I'll show you that picture also. If I take the observation of a given parameter, maybe at intermittent times for the same input value. Suppose I have a temperature measuring device, and right now I know that the water inside the pot has a temperature of 70 degrees Celsius. Just to understand repeatability, we'll have this example. So water is at 70 degrees Celsius. I immerse my thermometer. It is showing maybe 69 degrees Celsius. After a while, I once again immerse the temperature, presuming that the temperature remains constant at 70 degrees Celsius. I carry out these measurements after some time spans for a constant temperature source. And the readings given by my thermometer for a fixed input, the variations in the readings given by the transducer for the same input value is a measure of repeatability. So for the same input value, if my temperature sensor is giving me for a 70 degree Celsius input value, it is giving me variations from 69 to 71 degrees Celsius. Maybe the repeatability is plus or minus 1 around that value. So depending on your requirement, your application requirement, you can decide what should be the precision in the measurement of a given parameter you want. So it specifies the ability of a sensor to give same output for repeated applications of same input value. It is usually expressed as percentage of the full range output. So repeatability for a given input value, what is the difference between the maximum value indicated and the minimum value indicated? That difference multiplied by 100 divided by the full range gives me the percentage repeatability, and which also defines the precision of a given transducer. Now let us go to a point wherein we'll be comparing accuracy with precision. Now this graphic will make the concept very clear. Let us say this is my expected value, and let us say that this is the margin of error which is tolerable, or this is the accuracy I want. So if the parameter has exactly same value, fine, it is accurate only. Now if the parameter is up to this range, let us call it as accurate. Okay. So the first case, if you can see, if you want to compare accuracy and precision, what we said, accuracy is closeness to the true value. So whatever pink circle we have, if the values are around this pink circle in a white circle, then we'll be calling those parameters, those measurements as accurate measurements. And how we define precision? Precision, if I, for a fixed input value, if I take number of measurements, if those measurements are close enough, as you can see in the first sketch, those measurements for the fixed input are scattered. And hence, what is the conclusion? This measurement has low accuracy because none of the readings are within the white circle, which is close to the pink circle. So it is having low accuracy, and all the observations those are made are scattered. So 6 times I have made measurements, and 6 times it has shown wide variation in the measurements. So this particular case corresponds to low accuracy because only one reading is there within the accurate circle, so to say, and so it is having low accuracy, whereas low precision because all these observations are scattered. Now let us say the second case. What you can see, none of the observations are around the white circle, which is the closeness to the true value. So these measurements are not having accuracy, good accuracy. It has got low accuracy. But what is the nature of the observations? Those are clustered now. 6 observations I have made. These are very close to each other. For the same input value, these values are very close to each other. So in this case, as the observations are not close to the true value, those are not accurate. But because all the observations may be inaccurate, but those are close enough in the clustered form. So this measurement is a high precision measurement, and it is having low accuracy. Now see the other case now. We have all the 6 observations within the pink circle or a white circle. So this measurement has got high accuracy because these are very close to the true value. So all the 6 observations are having high accuracy. But for a fixed input, all the six observations are scattered. So they don't have high precision. They are having low precision, but they are highly accurate because those are within the close limits of the true value. So this is the high accuracy and low precision measurement. And the last one, so all these 6 observations are clustered either in the pink circle or in the white circle. So those are close to the true value. So they are accurate, and all the 6 measurements are clustered together. So this case has got high accuracy and high precision. So accuracy corresponds to closeness to the true value. Precision corresponds to clusteredness of the observations for a fixed input. I hope this difference must have been clear to you. I think we are in the bonus time. I'll cover 1 or 2 parameters and then we'll close down for today. The next specification, sensor transducer specification, is the next sensor transducer specification is sensitivity. Sensitivity of a sensor is defined as the ratio of change in output value of a sensor to the per unit change in the input value that causes the output to change. For example, a general purpose thermocouple may have a sensitivity of 41 microvolt per degree Celsius. So sensitivity corresponds to, for a unique change of input parameter, how much output the transducer is giving. In this case of a thermocouple, for 1 degree change in the temperature, it is giving me 41 microvolt. So it is good, we can say it is sensitive enough. But if I can have a thermocouple which can give me, instead of microvolt, maybe 1 millivolt per degree Celsius, I'll be calling it as more sensitive thermocouple than this one, because this is having 1 microvolt of output per degree Celsius. So it all depends on my requirement. If I'm working on a small parametric change range, I will require highly sensitive instrument. If the parameter of temperature parameter is varying, the range of temperature variation is maybe 0 to 1 degree Celsius, fine. I'll be using highly sensitive temperature measuring instrument or a temperature measuring transducer. Otherwise, if I'm working for a furnace which has a temperature range of maybe 0 degrees Celsius to 1000 degrees Celsius, I don't go in for such a highly sensitive temperature measuring transducer. I don't want, because my temperature variations will be in tens of degrees of Celsius or maybe 20s of degrees of Celsius. And if that is sufficient for my application, I can select appropriate sensitivity parameter for a given device. I think we shall stop for today. And as I said in my earlier lecture also, uh, you can put your questions in your on my WhatsApp number, and tell me, feel frank enough, feel free enough to share whatever are your problems, difficulties. We have seen 6 of the specification parameters. These are going to be useful when we ultimately select a particular transducer for our mechatronic application. So we'll stop for today. I hope you've understood many of the concepts. I'll be putting these lectures on my WhatsApp, on our WhatsApp group as well, and I'll be sharing the PPTs in my Google Classroom as well. So thank you for now. Have a nice day. Thank you.